Like, what the fuck happened? I'll get back to playing the lore video in a second. Let me just set something up here.
Hilton, we love that.
Now working for the Jedi, the droid hated all living things, with perhaps the only exception being Revan himself. HK-47 often eagerly suggested murder as a solution to most of the problems the reformed Revan and his allies encountered during their travels in the Jedi Civil War. The droid survived for thousands of years by transferring his personality into the ship's computer. When later the ship crashed on the volcanic world of Mustafar, HK-47 soon found a new droid body and began to amass an army of droids to kill every meatbag on the planet. The droid and his army was, in the end, defeated. However, in the end, HK-47 did manage to escape and remains at large somewhere out there in the galaxy. Number 3. Revan's son. After Revan's redemption and defeat of Darth Malak, he married the Jedi Bastila Shan, and together the two of them had a son named Vener Shan. Unfortunately, Revan disappeared on a mission to the unknown regions when Bastila was still pregnant with him. So his son, Vener, whose first name was an anagram of his father's, never met his father, though they looked alike. The same eyes, fair skin, and shoulder-length dark brown hair. However, surprisingly, as the child of two of the most powerful Jedi in history, he wasn't Force-sensitive and therefore never joined the Jedi Order, or for that matter, the Sith. Instead, Vener served as a politician in the Republic and eventually rose to the position of Supreme Chancellor. Number 4. Centuries of imprisonment. After the Mandalorian War and the preceding Jedi Civil War that ended with Revan's redemption and return to the light, he and his former general, Mitra Surik, went into the unknown regions to confront and destroy the
Keith, can you share my stuff around again?
on his empire's capital world of Dromund. Though he and his allies fought fiercely, a last-minute betrayal led to Revan's defeat. Mitra was killed.
What's up, SGR? My other my shit just crashed. I had to reload it.
Through the Force, and he tried to invade Revan's mind and get him to reveal the strengths and weaknesses of the Republic and the Jedi Order. However, perhaps Revan's greatest strength was his mind, so he not only managed to resist the endless torment of telepathic attacks, but was also able to fight back by using his will to subtly influence the Emperor, augmenting the immortal's fear of death. And
Yeah, it sucks. It gets annoying.
the Republic for 3 centuries. Number 5. Dark side rituals. While being tortured through the centuries, Revan was able to glimpse many secrets of the Force from his torturer, Initiate, without the powerful Sith Emperor being aware of what he was accumulating from his mind. This included the ritual of Nathaniel, perhaps the most complex and elaborate Sith ritual ever conceived. Whether Revan had known of the ritual but forgotten about it later, or after the Jedi mind wiped him, is unclear. He could have learned of the ritual beforehand when he and Malak had come under the Sith Emperor's influence before the Jedi Civil War. What is known is that he recorded a transcript of the ritual into his Sith holocron, which thousands of years later was rediscovered by the forefather of the Rule of Two, Darth Bane. It was was an ability Vitiate had used to drain the life force of 8,000 Sith Lords and almost all other life on the planet of Nathema. This was to augment his strength in the force and to make him immortal. Now, I know there are a lot of Vitiate fans in the comments, so let me know if you think Vitiate could take
That's good. It'll keep them entertained.
or maybe if you want that animated. Anyways, using what he had assimilated from the ritual, Revan was able to come with his own right, the Thought Bomb, a force nexus capable of absorbing the soul of any force-sensitive being caught within its radius, and doing so by catching it in a swirling vortex of never-ending pain and torment for all eternity. Sounds great, I know. A ritual again Darth Bane learned of from Revan's holocron centuries later, and would use to annihilate thousands of Jedi and eliminate every Sith except himself during the war between the Army of Light and the Brotherhood of Darkness on the planet Ruusan. Number 6. Aid from a dead friend. Though Revan was still strong, he could not have fought off the Sith Emperor's assault through the centuries without the aid of Mitra Surik, the Jedi General's Force Ghost, remaining at Revan's side throughout his time in stasis. She allowed him to feed off her essence so her sustenance could strengthen his resolve. Whenever Vitiate's torture became too much and her spirit continued to refresh and restore Revan, allowing the powerful Force user to carry on
Alright, cool, thank you.
actual war of wills with the Sith Emperor. Number 7. Two Revans. Growing frustrated with Revan's ability to resist him, Vitiate and 6 powerful Sith Lords who served as the Emperor's advisors, known as the Dreadmasters, decided to concentrate on splitting Revan's dark and light sides apart into 2 different personalities.
whatever it is you
The Jedi
do with
created
Snake Oil
dual
once you get
personalities
this
when they
blast
wiped
out
his
of
mind back during the Jedi Civil War.
I'm more than capable of
Vitiate
taking
reasoned
care of
that
this.
the 2 personalities
watch.
were working separately, one for the dark and one for the light side. And this
This is
boosted
our
Revan's
Snake Oil
resolve
now.
in general.
Your snake
As
will
with
have
a
to
united
stay
personality,
unoiled.
he had proven too strong to break. But the attempt was only partially successful because the Sith Emperor was never able to actually finalize the split until Revan finally managed to escape from his 300-year ordeal. Number 8. Revan, the genocidal maniac. When Revan was finally freed by Republic forces, the Sith Emperor's attempts at
What is the big
splitting his
deal with
mind
the snake
apart
oil?
made the brilliant strategist deranged and vindictive. So using an army of droids created by the Foundry, a massive manufacturing facility built into an asteroid by the Rakata thousands of years
Where's the
prior,
key?
Revan intended to commit genocide on the Sith, as vengeance for the torment he'd had to endure for so long. But before he could carry out his plans, the great hero and villain was ultimately killed by an Imperial strike team. Though, as with most things involving Revan, from there, things just got more complicated. Number 9. Revan resurrected. Revan physically died, but the dark side version of himself refused to become one with the Force, and so the personality split finally became complete. Though perhaps not how Vitiate had envisioned it, Revan was split, literally. The dark side persona existed physically in his reanimated body, while the light Revan existed as a Force ghost. So, body and soul were split. The dark side Revan continued with his plans against the Sith Emperor, taking control of a secret cult that had sprung up within the Empire that was devoted to him. These were known as the Revanites, and intended to use them to eliminate Vitiate and rebirth the Republic, while his light side spirit believed that he should have died long ago and become one with the Force. Number 10. Final defeat. The Dark Revan decided that he would use the Sith Emperor's own ritual of Nathema to destroy him personally. So, he attempted to enact the ceremony on Yavin to battle Vitiate. But again, his plans were disturbed by brutal adventures. This time, a coalition between Republic and Imperial forces who saw Revan as a threat to both their sides of the galactic conflict. Revan retreated into Yavin's jungles to an ancient temple known as the Forgotten Terrace. But when yet another strike team came after him, led by the galactic hero known as the Outlander, the Dark Revan once again held his own against their forces. Whenever he would defeat one of the warriors, Revan's light side spirit would shield the Outlander and resurrect the fallen. The spirit also raised the strike team to higher levels, as they fought across 3 levels of terrain against his physical evil half. But ultimately, with the strike team and Revan's light side ghost, the Dark Revan was defeated permanently, and the 2 halves of Revan were once again reunited and in peace, becoming one with the Force again. The Outlander and the strike team knew they had barely survived the encounter. Hope you guys enjoyed this video about Revan, top 10 facts about his story, and I can also make a top 10 about his powers, which is pretty interesting as well. Hey everyone, hope you're having a nice day so far today. So, there once lived a powerful Dark Lord of the Sith, clad in a terror-inducing black mask, who commanded great armies and struck fear into his enemies through his immense prowess with the dark side of the Force, and nearly unrivaled lightsaber skills. And no, I'm not talking about the one with the respirator issues. This Sith ruled thousands upon thousands of years
If it
before
isn't my
A New
trusty
Hope.
backup
He
courier
was
here
called
with the goods.
the Lord of Hate,
That snake
and
oil is
master
gonna make these
of the
ships
Gathering
sing,
Darkness.
my friend.
His name was Tulak Hord,
Sure
one of the
wish
most
80
powerful
was
Sith
full.
Lords of all time. Some would argue he was the most powerful Sith to have ever lived. Regardless, powerful
80?
he was.
You're
From
here.
early on, Tulak Hord
They
demonstrated
say.
a great proficiency with the dark side, as he quickly rose
I am
through the
back
ranks
to
of
reap the
the early
rewards of
Sith
my
Empire,
hilarious
striking
prank.
fear in his
I was
rivals
only
with his mastery
pretending
in
to
the art
shirk
of
my
lightsaber
responsibilities
combat,
and waste the valuable time of...
Of
and the
course, how could I
of
be
the
so
Force. In
blind?
his youth, he
Our
fought
pranking
an
put you in
honorable duel
danger.
against a
Yes,
long
friend.
reputed
Master Prince.
humanoid assassin named Bao, who was a Dash-8, a tough and ferocious species that were notable for their partial resistance to the Force. Winning the duel, he did something very uncharacteristic for a Sith. He spawned the Dash-8, turning Bao into the most faithful ally that he could find. Soon after, with his massive followers, Tulak Hord led a campaign of terror-crushing militants on the planets Yin and Kabosh, who had rebelled against the Sith. During the campaign, however, another Sith named Aloysius Kalig approached Tulak about serving him. But Tulak did not think much of Aloysius and dismissed him quickly, not accepting the refusal, though. Aloysius challenged Tulak's greatest general to prove himself, and
I came
won.
out of hiding
Impressed
for
by his victory,
this.
Tulak accepted
You know I
Aloysius
wanted to be left
as his
alone,
new general,
right?
placing him in charge of many of his troops, which he would lead to numerous victories in Tulak's name. During these battles, Tulak Hord would utilize his knowledge of
Shit, I fell.
Audible has just
I don't care about Audible.
kind of true crime fan, fraudster tale fans, fans of
Sith rituals to drain energy from the strength of his opponents, undefeated and slaughtering all who dared to oppose him. Tulak Hord finally earned the title of Dark Lord of the Sith. Discovering and subjugating the Dromun system, Tulak was believed to have conquered over 100 worlds for the Sith Empire. However, even though as his general, Aloysius' military ingenuity provided the Dark Lord with many great victories, Tulak began to grow apprehensive of his commander, as he feared Aloysius' strength was growing to such a degree that he was becoming a dangerous rival. So, he arranged Aloysius' assassination, and while he was allowed to be entombed on the Sith planet of Dromun Kas, Aloysius' family still went into hiding to avoid a similar fate. Tulak Hord further continued his studies of Sith sorcery, writing down many tomes containing his vast knowledge of the dark arts, as well as constructing his own Sith holocron. But not wishing for just anyone to discover his secrets, he scattered much of his teachings in hidden and hard locations to reach, in order to make sure that only those worthy would uncover what he knew. It was even rumored that he might have learned the secret to
I never thought I'd make it to retirement,
Dark Lord
but
of the
here
Sith only during his life. It is not unusual for a Sith Lord to duel too, but for the ancient Sith, it was very rare. But for Tulak, only Ortan Chella proved worthy of his teaching.
Fuck.
In appreciation of the honorable relationship he had built with his most trusted ally, the Dash-8 assassin, Confiscating, Tulak Hord had his servant and ally placed inside a stasis chamber in suspended animation deep within the future tomb of another great ancient Sith Lord named Nagasado. This was all in the Valley of Dark Lords on the Sith planet Korriban. As is the consequence of most Sith masters and apprentice relationships, Ortan Chella would betray
No need for
Tulak
another
Hord
commotion.
long
Just quietly
by stabbing his master literally in the back. Orton had his own Dash-8
Quiet enough,
servant
Master?
named Veshik Urk, who he had consumed the dying Sith Lord's Force energy. Tulak Hord was then himself
I came
entombed
out of
in the
hiding
Valley of
for
Dark
this.
Lords, and his writings,
You know I wanted to be
holocron,
left alone,
and menacing black mask were also with him. Many traps were placed to keep looters away and to serve as obstacles to test the worth of any knowledge-seeking Sith who dared to venture inside. As the conclusion of a war fought centuries later between the Republic and the Sith, known as the Great Hyperspace War, Korriban was bombed, and much of the histories of Tulak Hord was lost or destroyed in the devastation, though his tomb remained undisturbed until at an even later date, during yet another crisis between the Jedi and Sith, in what is referred to as the Jedi Civil War, Anakin Jedi named Revan entered his tomb and confiscated the Dark Lord's so iconic Black Widow. Know that there once was a dark traitor, and that she cast aside that role, was exiled and found in his purpose. But there must always be a dark traitor, one that holds the knowledge of betrayal, even betrayed in their heart, and will betray. Hey everyone, hope you're having a good day today. Today we're going to cover Darth Kreia, which is quite an interesting character with legend. So here we go. Is a lightsaber still a lightsaber if it lost its power? Is a Jedi still a Jedi if she lost her Force power? These are many of the types of vexed questions, or staples for the students who studied under the Jedi Master, known simply as Kreia. While her apprentices were mystified and intrigued by her challenging conundrums, her fellow Jedi used them as a point, but they were far from it. Kreia, as a Jedi historian and master, was in search of deeper truths and encouraged her students to challenge and question their assumptions, not to rely on what they saw in front of them, but instead what was concealed beneath. In fact, her own eyesight remained unused, and she relied purely on the Force to penetrate the mysteries of the galaxy. Because of her eccentric method of teaching, the Jedi Council were concerned and kept a careful eye on her, but her Jedi trainees admired her philosophy, especially one Padawan who was particularly gifted, known only as Revan. He would leave her tutelage, but only because he wanted to round out his education by learning about the Force from the perspective of the other masters of the Order. Eventually, he would return to her for guidance when he found himself at odds with the Jedi Council concerning their inaction against the Mandalorian Neo-Crusaders, who were waging a war on the Republic across the galaxy. Revan would decide to defy the Council and to go to war with Mandalorians. Many other Jedi joined him in his crusade. In fact, all the Jedi that had been Kreia's students went with him to defend the Republic. The brutal war would lead to Revan and many of his followers turning to the dark side. Those who did not turn simply abandoned their training. Now, as a consequence, the Jedi considered all of Kreia's pupils to be failures and denounced her.
Brother Lemonhead, there you is.
She was exiled from the Order. After her expulsion from the Jedi Order, Kreia wanted to know more about what had led to Revan's fall. So she traced the path he had taken during the war and ultimately found herself being drawn to the Sith world of Malachor V. Now this planet was a nexus for the dark side and had once been a part of the ancient Sith Empire. So once she arrived, she found Kreia's Academy, an age-old dark side praxian that had served as Darth Revan's stronghold. When she entered, she was confronted by Sith assassins left behind by Revan, but surprisingly enough, instead of attacking the old Jedi, they instead showed her manuscripts and tomes containing the most closely guarded and profound secrets of the Sith. The texts could only be read through the Force, and they revealed, as Kreia saw it, the cosmic truths she had strived to comprehend her entire life. Truths that changed and perhaps broke her very sanity. The ancient Sith sorcerers who had authored the texts claimed that they had obtained insight into realities beyond ours. The contradictory and aimless nature of existence, as understood by most sentient species, was a burden to comprehend and an obvious lie. Anyone who was Force sensitive. Now the Force, by its very being, revealed there was much more to reality than the apparent, and therefore every Force sensitive lived in a
Shit,
state
where's the character I had before?
They
Oh my god, they changed it.
At first, Kreia tried to argue against these revelations, denouncing them as falsehoods, but she came to perceive that her resistance was a self-defense mechanism. She believed every word of the text. She saw now that Revan had never fallen to the dark side, but that he had met the call for greater action to be done. With that, the Jedi Master Kreia was no longer. In her place stood Darth Kreia, a Lord of the Trail. She re-established the Kreia's Academy so she could create and train an entirely new generation of Sith that would continue what Darth Revan had started, revealing herself as Revan's former master, who remained of the Dark Lord's forces after their defeat in the Jedi Civil War. The Sith
Okay, I can change my character in peace, hopefully.
having secured a military force,
I was trying to have
Kreia felt within
this
the
Luke
heart
and Ben Solo try to defeat Count
Following
Dooku.
where they led, she eventually encountered the Lord, Darth Sion, the Lord of Pain, and Darth Sion, the Lord of Hope. Both Darksiders were interested in rebuilding the Sith Lord and agreed to joining her in forming the Sith Triumvirate, an alliance made up of several, if not hundreds, of Sith apprentices, Sith masters, and of course, Sith assassins. However, even as Sion and Nihilus had agreed to apprentice themselves to her, their ideals and visions for the Sith did not cease praise. She wanted to fulfill Revan's vision, while Nihilus wanted to satiate his hunger, and Sion was becoming more obsessive with his crusade against the Jedi. After
Wait,
she
what
had
just
taught
happened? Why did it switch?
Nihilus how to defeat the dark side and devour entire worlds, the two Siths began to plot against her. So, in the innermost sanctum of the Academy, known as the Trey's Core, they confronted her and stripped her of her connection to the Force. But instead of killing her, they decided it would be cooler to let her live, exiled her once more. After casting her aside, Darth Nihilus took her place as the Dark Lord of the Sith, and both he and Sion began their Jedi assassination campaign. It was so effective that most of the Jedi were wiped out, and those few who weren't went into hiding. Kinda sounds familiar, doesn't it? Essentially, they left no Jedi alive in the galaxy, at least from what they knew. While the two Sith were busy with their Jedi purge, their former master had assumed her name of Kreia and left Malachor 5, searching for another Jedi exile named Mitra Surik. Now, Mitra Surik was one of her former Jedi students and served as a general under Revan when he was still a Jedi. This was all during the Mandalorian War. Now, she had been instrumental in defeating the Mandalorians during the final battle of the war, which had taken place in Malachor 5, by ordering the activation of the mass shadow generator. Now, this was a devastating superweapon that had crushed both the Republic and Mandalorian forces caught in its destructive wave and left a substantial wound in the Force. The horror of what she had done was so great that it threatened to kill her. So unconsciously, the Jedi General had severed her own connection to the Force, which might have been the only thing that prevented her from falling to the dark side, as had happened to every other Jedi under Revan's command. Kreia wanted to find Mitra because of the Jedi General's unique innate talent in close bonding, an ability a Jedi has to form connections through the Force. The stronger the Jedi, the stronger the connection. Kreia intended to help Mitra reconnect with the Force, as the former Dark Lord had discovered a way to deafen the entire galaxy to it, and believed that through Mitra she could create a Force wound greater than any other, a wound that would spread throughout the galaxy and never end silencing the Force. Kreia found the exiled Jedi General unconscious from a drug on a Republic warship. She took the Jedi aboard Revan's former ship, the Ebon Hawk, and barely escaped an ambush by Darth Sion. During this ordeal, both Kreia and Mitra subconsciously reached out to each other, forming a Force bond that intertwined their lives. Though they had reached the mining facility, Paragus 2 in relative safety,
Grievous called an Uber.
for Sion to catch up to her in the commandeered Republic ship, Harbinger. This was where Kreia came face to face with the former student, since she hadn't seen since he exiled her. They fought, but Kreia was easily defeated, losing her left hand to Sion's crimson lightsaber. This simultaneously caused Mitra to feel Kreia's pain in her own hand because of their bond. You can see the inspiration here possibly from the whole Rey and Kylo connection. After they had escaped Sion once more, Kreia took the opportunity to convince the Jedi exile that because of their bond, if one of them should die, they both would. This left Mitra no choice but to keep Kreia close to her. As Kreia slowly guided Mitra into reconnecting with the Force, she began to teach the younger woman that the actions of a Jedi should be chosen carefully, and that Mitra should always consider the ethical implication of all quests she undertook.
I gotta go take care of something, guys, real quick. Okay, guys, I'm gonna do y'all a favor. I'm gonna leave my computer on playing Star Wars related, you know, the lore stuff, because I gotta do something real quick before I can pick up streaming. So I'm gonna leave it here, and when I get back, I'll pick it up. I'm not cutting it off. I'm just gonna have something running for you guys to listen to.
What is right and moral is not as simple as dividing everything into the light and dark. Dark side of the Force. The morale of the inhabitants of the galaxy were more complex than that. What the right thing to do was not always so straightforward. They decided to try and locate the various Jedi Masters that had gone into hiding, in order to see if they could get their aid in stopping the Sith. As Mitra's connection to the Force grew, more and more companions were drawn to her through the Force. Kreia realized it was the younger woman's Force bond ability, transmitting a call of sorts, that caused these strangers to bond with her. Through many adventures, they eventually met with the reassembled Jedi Council in the ruins of the Jedi Enclave on Tatooine. But instead of deciding to help Mitra, the Jedi Masters believed that she was a wound in the Force herself, and a danger that could lure the Sith to them. So they attempted to strip the Force from her, for real this time. However, Kreia stormed in and, having herself reconnected to the Force through their long journey, used it to drain the Jedi Masters' connection instead, thereby killing them in the process. She then assumed her Sith persona again and was once more Darth Treya. The Sith left Mitra, who was unconscious, and shortly afterwards returned to Malachor 5. There she planned to sacrifice herself, as her death would open up a large wound that would destroy the Force itself. But before doing so, she decided to wait for Mitra to come for answers and a final confrontation. After confronting and defeating Darth Nihilus, Mitra did indeed follow Treya to Malachor 5, though before she could reach her former mentor and ally, the Jedi first had to deal with Darth Sion, who waited for her within the Treyas Academy. Now, I've made a video on Darth Sion. He's a pretty cool character. He was pretty much almost immortal, so stay tuned for that one. The problem with confronting Darth Sion was that the Sith Lord was technically already dead. His body was decomposed and a scarred mess. Essentially, he was an undead zombie with a keen mind and a tremendous dark side ability that just grew and grew. It was only the Sith's iron will that kept him alive, much like Darth Maul, but Mitra was able to erode that iron will through their duel, eventually convincing him to give up the pain that was keeping him from dying. As he let go, he told the Jedi General that she had been his weakness, but she was Treya's weakness too. Finding Treya in the Academy's core, Mitra first tried to reason with her former teacher, but to no avail. With no choice, they both clashed in an epic lightsaber duel, but Mitra was in time able to cut off Treya's last remaining hand. The Sith then demanded that Mitra kill her, but the Jedi refused. Angered by her unwillingness, Treya used the Force to control 3 lightsabers and attack the Jedi with them. But, once again, Mitra was able to best Treya, though not without landing a fatal wound on her. Despite being the Lord of Betrayal, Mitra forgave Treya for her deceptions and everything that had happened. She still wanted to try and save her old teacher, but Treya stopped her and told the younger Jedi that she already had. It was kind of like a Luke and Vader moment, and that by killing her, the Jedi had awarded her more than she could possibly know. Treya then admitted that she truly loved Mitra, not just because she considered her her greatest student, but because she didn't believe that she was a true Jedi. Treya then drew upon the Force that radiated from Malachor 5, and as a last gift to her student, she looked into the future of the galaxy and that of Mitra's friends, telling the Jedi what she saw. Then she expressed her hope that Mitra would follow Revan into the unknown regions. However, whether she chose to do that or to simply depart the planet and return to her life in the Republic, or even if she was to decide to stay on Malachor 5 and wait for the other Force sensitives to join her in time, there was no dishonor in any of her 2 choices. She could even return to her exile, where her Force bond would have no effect on the lives of others, but Mitra chose to follow Revan, and with that, Darth Treya surrendered her life to the living Force, the mystical energy she had tried to destroy, but now embraced. Now one with the Force, her body was soon enough destroyed when the mass shadow generator was once again activated, resulting in the annihilation of Malachor 5. Hey everyone, hope you're having a good day so far today. So during the time of Exar Kun's war against the Jedi, Darth Sion was a human male who served the infamous Dark Lord as one of his Sith marauders. He was strong in the dark side, and a ferocious warrior that had a peculiar mania and disgust towards his own body. He despised the fragile limitations to pain and damage that all humans have, to such a degree that his hate for his perceived weaknesses drove him to fixate entirely on pain. Pain became the source he would draw on the dark side from. Thus, Darth Sion became the Lord of Pain, who went into battle with the Jedi, openly seeking death. Because Sion was such a violent combatant, the death he sought did not come, as he continued to defeat every enemy he encountered. Instead, his tolerance towards pain grew and grew, to the point that Sion gradually started to believe that he was immortal. But of course, eventually, he did come across a Jedi able to match his power and was struck down in battle. However, he did come back from the dead. As he lay there, finished on the battlefield, the pain within him only surged to such agonizing extremes that it pushed him to rise again and strike down his very surprised killer. His body was dead, but through his anger and his hate, and most importantly, his constant excruciating pain, the dark side allowed him to hold his decomposing body together. Though from that point on he always had to concentrate on his rage and never-ending pain to keep going, Sion had in fact become immortal. Exar Kun was eventually defeated and his Sith Empire collapsed, but Sion remained. The Mandalorian forces that had served the Dark Lord would, through the decades following their loss, unite under a new Mandalore. The title was given to the top Mandalorian chieftain, and begin another conquest of the Republic. The warrior clan devastated every world they invaded, until a Jedi named Revan used his power and military genius to lead the Republic to victory, only for him in turn to fall to the dark side and become a new Dark Lord of the Sith. So, the Mandalorian War came to an end, only to be replaced by a new war under a Sith Empire. Pleased with the outcome, Darth Sion joined up with Revan, but like with Exar Kun, this empire was not to last either. As the collapse happened, Sion was on Korriban, at the Sith Academy, observing his fellow Sith turn on one another. This was in keeping with Sith nature, but Sion was surprised that it was Revan himself that had betrayed the Sith and destroyed what he had built when he was redeemed by the light side and was once again a Jedi. Some of those Sith lords that survived either declared themselves warlords over their own smaller territories or withdrew into the unknown regions, but not Darth Sion. Again, he remained, but he wasn't the only one. A former Jedi Master of Revan's, who had also fallen to the dark side, named Darth Kreia, which I'm going to make a video on as well. She was this elder woman, and she was very strong in the Force, and she was searching the galaxy far and wide for what she termed wounds in the Force. That's right, she was looking for wounds in the Force. And Sion was one such wound. She was forming a Sith team, kind of like the Avengers, I guess, but just on the dark side, and she was doing this on the dark side planet of Malachor 5, with the aim of eradicating the Jedi once and for all from the galaxy. So Sion joined Darth Kreia as her apprentice. He was not alone, however. Another Sith, the Lord of Hunger, Darth Nihilus, became an apprentice of Kreia's as well. However, Sion and Nihilus's goals started to differ from those of their master. Furthermore, Sion was becoming frustrated with the abstract approach Kreia had to her teachings, and he couldn't stand how her words kept echoing in his head. So the fragile alliance of the Sith Avengers began to fracture. Eventually, Sion and Nihilus then agreed to deal with their master. So together, they confronted her while she was meditating. Sion ruthlessly beat Kreia to a pulp, and then Nihilus used his dark side hunger to strip Kreia of her connection to the Force. However, they didn't kill her. Instead, she was cast out, and Nihilus became the new Dark Lord. Now, Sion went on a Jedi killing spree across the galaxy. Over the course of his purge, he was killed on several occasions, but as before, he just kept getting up each time and slaughtered as many Jedi as he could. Now, during this time, he and Nihilus rebuilt the Sith into yet another empire. Once Sion's crusade came to an end, almost every Jedi in the galaxy was extinct. The Jedi Order had publicly disbanded, and whatever Jedi were still alive had gone underground. However, there was a surviving Jedi Master named Atris, who wanted to bring the Sith into the opening to destroy them, but she needed bait. So she drew in another Jedi, who had remained outside known space since the Mandalorian War. Her name was Mitra Surik, and she had been exiled from the Jedi when she had chosen to join Revan in his war against the Mandalorians. But the Jedi Master was able to get Mitra to return to Republic territory, and once the exiled Jedi Knight did, Atris made sure information of her location reached the Sith. Thinking Mitra must be the last of the Jedi, Sion pursued her. The Jedi exile had returned from the Outer Rim after securing transportation aboard the Republic vessel Harbinger, when Sion and his Sith assassins came after her. However, Sion's former master, Darth Kreia, now going by the name Kreia, interfered, as she came to Mitra's rescue in Revan's former ship, the Ibn Hawk.
I cut out carbs, sugar. It was just not sustainable. Boom, I gained it back so fast. This time I feel like I've done it the healthy way. I've lost 30 pounds. Just do it. Just do it. You won't regret it. You're gonna see it too. You're gonna be like, dang, I look good. For a while, I just completely cut out carbs, and I realized that was a mistake. After I gave the carbs back, I dropped another 30 pounds.
I lost 54 pounds.
So you lost like a whole child.
Yeah, exactly. The lack of gut in the mirror is also great, and those abs popping through. It makes me feel really good.
By the time I hit the 90 days, I had lost right at 30 pounds, and my jeans were falling off of me.
My mental health was deteriorating, depressed. I didn't want to leave the house. Finally, one day, I kind of woke up. I stepped on the scale. I got scared, and then I said enough is enough and started looking, trying to figure out what I was going to do to change this.
I don't even weigh 210 pounds. You've lost me. That's insane. The truth is that Hollywood's elite actors can get ripped while adding 12, 15, even 20 pounds of muscle in just a few weeks because they follow a long forgotten and suppressed by the fitness industry secret that was used for generations of bodybuilders and athletes before steroids were even invented. You want to know why running on the treadmill 7 days a week doesn't work for you when you're trying to lose weight? Because it simply just doesn't work. Cardio actually burns calories, usually in the form of carbs in the bloodstream that are then replaced with the very next meal that you eat and stored as more fat. This is why when you even eat low-calorie foods or run for an hour a day, it seems like you get softer, but you don't actually lose any weight. And this is one of the biggest reasons why most weight loss attempts fail within the first 3 weeks. I don't do an hour of cardio. I have never done an hour of cardio in the past 5-10 years, and I stay sub 10% body fat year-round.
And then finally, there was the D-Shred commercial. I decided, okay, I'll check this out. Well, it's affected other areas of my life, all in positive ways.
There is a simple way to completely transform your physique in as little as 12 weeks, like, say, Hugh Jackman did, or the Wolverine movie. But to transform himself into the superhero, Jackman followed some of the secrets that I'll reveal to you. Chris Pratt went from the chubby, lovable Andy on Parks and Rec to the cover of Men's Fitness sporting a killer set of abs. What's their secret? They ruthlessly cut through the fluff and the BS. They have zero time to waste because their next film role is starting in just a few weeks, so they can't waste time on the wrong program. Each of us has a unique body type, one of 3 body types. Depending on yours, there's a specific way that you should eat and train that will make burning fat and building muscle and getting in shape faster and easier. And I made a free quiz that will determine your body type and the best foods and exercises for you in about 30 seconds. You can hit that link below and take the quiz. We won't ask for your email or anything like that. Click the link below this video right now, take my free body type quiz, and get your personalized plan right now.
I could not have done it without him. If anybody's ever on the fence about taking B-Shred, take the leap. Just jump in and do it. If you don't, you're never going to get anywhere.
Hawk. Sion's warship intercepted Kreia and opened fire on the Hawk, but the freighter managed to send out a distress signal, and the Harbinger engaged Sion's warship. The Sith Lord allowed the Republic to think they had been defeated, so when they came aboard his vessel, Sion's cloaked Sith assassins sneaked aboard the Republic's ship, while Sion played dead. The Republic crew found him, checked to see if he was alive, which he wasn't, as he had been dead for years. Thinking the threat was neutralized, the crew brought the body to the medical bay on the Harbinger. But the Republic forces had also rescued Kreia from the damaged Ebon Hawk. As Sion's assassins stealthily began to kill the crew, Sion awoke, killed whoever was around him, and started hunting for Mitra. But Kreia got to her first and escaped, but still functioning Ebon Hawk. As she went into hyperspace before Sion could reach them, the Sith Lord was able to assume control of the Republic vessel. He came right after them to the mining world of Paragus II.
Once Sion had docked at the mining faculty and had his assassins watch for his prey, Kreia, Mitra, and a prisoner, they all helped a Jedi coming aboard the Harbinger as they searched for an escape route, but unfortunately for the Jedi's party, Sion intercepted them. However, Kreia leapt at her former student wielding a sword, but she was still deafened to the Force, so Sion cut off her hand, but she managed to escape him and join up with Mitra and Ebon Hawk. Though not giving up, Sion continued to chase after them in the Harbinger, but in the ensuing firefight, the volatile asteroids that orbited Paragus were hit by blaster fire and ignited, consuming the Harbinger in their explosion. But of course, Sion remained. Outraged that Kreia was protecting the exiled Jedi, she was so much weaker than him. Sion became obsessed with annihilating everything his former master had held dear, especially Mitra Surik. So, when sometime later the Jedi Knight came to Korriban searching for Lona Vash, a master on the Jedi Council who had been captured by the Sith, Sion was finally getting his opportunity to hurt Kreia. If he could kill the Jedi exile, that is. Sion killed the council member and waited for Mitra. When they finally met face to face, Sion warned the Jedi Knight that Kreia would destroy Mitra, as she had destroyed Sion. Then they dueled in a vicious battle, and every time the Jedi injured him, the Sith Lord would use his pain and the dark side to restore his health. The dude was pretty much immortal, literally. Realizing it was a battle that she couldn't win, Mitra fled the Sith Academy. Now, Sion did not pursue after her. He felt a measure of respect for her after she fought so well against him, so he let her go. He was certain they would meet again, but soon the respect the Sith Lord had for the Jedi turned to hate once more. He couldn't get her off his mind, as Sion realized that he had been stricken by her beauty and began to have feelings for her that he could not tolerate. That's right, he got the hots for her. Sion returned to Malachor 5, where he encountered Kreia waiting for him. The elder woman had killed the Sith assassins and was no longer cut off from the Force. He learned that she had led Darth Nihilus to his death at Mitra's hands, but she had also betrayed the Jedi exile. Kreia had once again assumed the persona of Darth Traya. Though he initially wanted to kill her, Kreia was eventually able to bend Darth Sion to her will and told him to prepare for Mitra's arrival. And when the Jedi did come, after having fought her way through the Sith forces at the Academy on Malachor, she finally stood before Sion once again. He urged her to leave, as Darth Traya would bend her will as she had bent his. Sion thought of himself as Traya's greatest student, even greater than Revan. His betrayal of her had just been one of her tests, which he had passed. Once the two of them began to duel, Mitra struck down the Sith Lord multiple times. Now, of course, he just kept getting back up, so Mitra tried to convince Sion that Kreia was only using him as a tool for her machinations. However, Sion was certain that if he could kill the Jedi exile, Kreia would have no choice but to make him her true apprentice. Mitra then explained to the Sith Lord how wrong he was, and Kreia only respected those who were able to let go of the Force, not beings such as Sion, who depended on it completely just to live. Mitra's words resonated with the Sith Lord. Now, of all the things in the galaxy, Sion was most repulsed by it was weakness. That is why he had embraced pain as strength in the first place. But now he saw that his life, or unlife, of pain was ultimately one that was permanently reliant on the Force, and therefore was another form of weakness. Disguised by this revelation, Sion let go of the pain and finally allowed himself to die, much like Vader did at the end of Return of the Jedi. But he did not do so before telling Mitra that she was Darth Traya's weakness, just as she had been Sion's. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this Legends video about Darth Sion. He was a pretty cool Sith Lord, or immortal, and this kind of makes me wonder if this is perhaps the path that Palpatine took to survive Episode 6 and come back in Episode 9. So let me know. There are tons of different videos that I'm going to be making from Legends about all these cool different Sith Lords and their powers and how they survived death. So maybe, they took some inspiration for this from these different lore stories and legend stories from these Sith Lords and maybe applied them to Palpatine for his return. Hey everyone, hope you're having a good day so far. Handsome, charming, and charismatic, Skir Khan was exceptionally skilled in the use of mind tricks, battle meditation, and military tactics during the last years of the Republic's Dark Age. This was a term given the last century of the New Sith Wars, when the Republic could no longer maintain communication with any of its settlements outside the core, and basically ceased to exist. Born into this turbulent time on Coruscant, Khan was taken in by the Jedi Order, where he soon rose to the rank of Jedi Knight, and his keen mind and sophisticated knowledge of economic policy and fleet command proved a valuable asset for the Order. Though he did begin to become critical of the Jedi, blaming them and the Republic, which what was left of it, for the anarchy that had spread throughout the galaxy for all these centuries of war with the Sith. Despite his radical views, the High Council hoped to use Khan's mastery of battle meditation, which was a force ability that boosts the morale, stamina, and overall battle powers of the user's allies, while also, simultaneously reducing the enemy's combat effectiveness and eroding their will to fight. They were hoping to use this to put an end to the centuries-long war with the reformed Sith Empire. So, they promoted him to Jedi Master in an attempt to moderate his behavior and objections. But their efforts did not appease Khan, who saw the Jedi Council as more and more tyrannical. So he left Coruscant and took a group of fellow Jedi Knights who shared his views with him and formed the Brotherhood of Darkness, declaring himself Dark Lord of the Sith. So I don't know if you guys can see, but there seems to be a running theme that Jedi just become fed up with the Jedi Order and the Jedi Council, and they go and start their own thing, which basically turns them into a Dark Lord of the Sith. Now, he was known as the Dark One by his followers. Khan's ascension to Dark Lord came during a time where the Sith Empire, instead of focusing their combined might on crushing the ailing Republic, had become fractured between dozens of Sith Lords, all waging war against each other for the right to claim the title Dark Lord for themselves. So Khan realized he had to unite the splintered Sith under his rule, or the unending infighting for more power and supremacy would lead to their destruction for good. He eliminated any who refused to join him, and once he was able to recruit two powerful Sith warlords, more followers soon joined up with Khan's Brotherhood. Completely blind to the threat that Khan was becoming, as he amassed more power, the Jedi High Council actually sent their congratulations to him for the killing of several key Sith warlords who had stood in his way, as he was reorganizing the Sith into his Brotherhood. Only the Jedi Lord Hoth, there was a brief period where a select few very powerful Jedi held the title of Lord, understood what Khan had become, and so he too left Coruscant to gather forces of his own to fight the menace Khan had become. Khan's philosophy was unique among the Sith. He had seen how the dark side users would eventually challenge each other for the self-proclaimed title Dark Lord. This caused an endless cycle of destruction and threatened undoing the ongoing war effort. So, in an attempt to try to break that pattern, Khan declared that all are equal in the Brotherhood of Darkness. Khan ruled with the idea of cooperation and equality among the Sith Lords, and therefore named all of the members of the Brotherhood Dark Lord of the Sith. Though, to prevent the past from repeating itself, Khan forbade any of his Sith Lords from taking the title Darth, because that particular honoree, in Khan's view, had always been responsible for all the infighting and jealous destruction within their ranks, and thus, there were no Darths in the Brotherhood. Well, except for one. But he showed up towards the end of the war. In fact, he was responsible for ending it, actually. So, his name, which a lot of you might know, was Darth Bane, but that comes a little bit later in today's video. Under Khan's banner, the Brotherhood of Darkness struck back at the Republic and Jedi. However, Lord Hoth gathered the Jedi Grand Council, not to be confused with the High Council, as it was not an official governing body, but instead existed outside the jurisdiction of the Jedi. Composed of a collection of those group of Jedi who had taken up the title of Lord, the Grand Council made decisions on their behalf, and helped safeguard the territories under the Jedi Lord's protection. With the Jedi Grand Council, Hoth was able to form the Army of Light, a military force made up of those Jedi Knights, Jedi Lords, and loyal Republic troops, tired of the government's ineffectual leadership. Once established, Hoth led his new army against Khan in a decade-long bloody and destructive war that saw massive casualties on both sides. At the start of the war, Khan's brilliant strategies provided the Sith with victory after victory. He even took back the old homeworld of the Sith, Korriban, and reopened a Sith Academy for his instructors to train new Sith recruits. However, Khan's charisma and ability to control weak-willed beings, along with his military tactics, kept the Brotherhood strong. His hold on his authority was fragile, but the Sith remained united. as long as Khan kept providing the victories. After successfully conquering planet after planet, including Kashyyyk, Khan put his sights next on the planet Ruusan, a world near Kashyyyk mostly insignificant. However, Lord Hoth's Army of Light had arrived on Ruusan to confront and wipe out the Brotherhood for good. Though outnumbered in sheer manpower by the Army of the Light, Khan was still certain of victory, regardless, for the Jedi had spread themselves thin in their attempts at protecting the native population of Ruusan. Plus, the defection of a Jedi named Githany, who would almost become the first Sith apprentice in Bane's Rule of Two, provided the Sith with vital intel on Hoth's battle plans and strategies. So, with those elements in his favor and confident of victory, Khan sent for reinforcements, regardless of the high numbers of casualties the Brotherhood was suffering. But despite Khan's own certainties, the tide of the war was steadily turning in the Republic's favor. They had recently reclaimed territory previously under the Brotherhood's control, including a group of mining systems in the Inner Rim. So, though most of his followers remained loyal, a few of the more prominent Dark Lords, most notably Bane, who at this stage of the war had joined the Sith, within the Brotherhood were starting to express doubts with Khan's leadership. Darth Bane in particular was disgusted with how Khan was going about handling the war. He thought the leader of the Brotherhood was not using the dark side of the Force how he should be using it, because Khan was too busy thinking too much like a, and I quote, dirt general and not a Sith Lord. Of course, Khan had a different point of view on the matter. He saw Bane as a threat to his leadership. Not only was his Darth title in direct violation of his orders, but Bane was ready to challenge him. So, Khan decided that Bane needed to be eliminated, and first sent the Sith Academy's top sword master, and one of Bane's former masters, to deal with the defiant Sith Lord. When Bane survived that confrontation, Khan sent the turncoat former Jedi Githany, who had a romantic relationship with Bane, to poison him. But he survived the second attempt, too. But then, to Khan's surprise, Bane sent the Dark One a peace offering of sorts. An ancient scroll inscribed with a forgotten Sith ritual called the Thought Bomb. The ritual was performed through sheer focused willpower that, upon release, would detonate and unleash a full volley of the dark side of the Force, obliterating any Force-sensitive being caught within its radius, ripping out their fragmented souls into a vortex of eternal torment that transformed into a shimmering silver orb. Yeah, this is some super intense and weird Sith weapon. Khan accepted Bane's gift, and he, as well as the other members of the Brotherhood, meditated and focused their dark energy, and as one, with their combined power, attacked the Jedi and their army of light through the Force, which proved to be a devastating blow to Lord Hoth's forces, leaving victory within the Sith's grasp. Sensing Jedi defeat was imminent, and feeling impatient and overconfident, the other Sith Lords broke the meditation circle and took the fight to the field to finish off the survivors. However, the Jedi were not as weak as the Sith had hoped, in part due to Darth Bane's machinations. He had signaled the Sith Armada in orbit of Ruusan to break formation and attack the opposing Republic fleet. This would keep the Sith fleet busy, allowing the Jedi to send in for reinforcements and stage a counterattack against Khan. Most of the Sith Masters died in the ensuing battle until Khan took his remaining forces into a deep cave and waited for the Jedi to begin their final strike. It was here, with no more options left, he decided to use the Thought Bomb. He believed it would destroy the Jedi, but that he and his Sith Lords would be strong enough to survive it. When Lord Hoth and his Army of Light finally did arrive to engage the Brotherhood, Khan detonated the Thought Bomb, which resulted in not just the annihilation of Lord Hoth's forces, but Khan himself, the Brotherhood, and any Force sensitive within the radius of the blast. This devastation marked the end of the New Sith Wars, and the Sith, as an organization, were presumed extinct by the Jedi and the galaxy at large. But Darth Bane and his new apprentice, Darth Zana, were far enough away from the Thought Bomb detonated and survived to secretly form the New Sith Order, which would follow the Rule of Two. Though all the Jedi and Sith alike who had been in the radius of the blast now had their essence trapped within the Thought Bomb vortex for all of time, somehow Khan's consciousness was able to escape and communicate with Bane and guide his former rival to a Sith holocron that had once belonged to Freedin Nod. Nod's holocron contained knowledge that would help Bane restore the Sith Order, but it was also a trick to expose the now only Dark Lord in existence to parasitic creatures known as obelisks. These parasitic creatures would attach themselves to the skin of their hosts, causing the wearer great pain as they fed and multiplied, growing all over the body until they eventually enveloped and suffocated their victim. Their hard shells did provide protection, however. In fact, obelisk armor's durability was so tough that even lightsabers had a hard time penetrating them. If they were removed or killed, the obelisks would release a highly potent and lethal toxin into the host's body. Either way, whether they remained and grew on the host or were removed, the result was always death. Though Bane was able to prevent the obelisks from covering his face, hands, and feet, he was now covered in them and used their hard shells as a living armor. A millennium later, the Sith Lord, who would be the last of Bane's rule of two, Darth Vader, used one of Khan's indestructible Sith amulets in the construction of one of his gloves. Though charming, handsome, charismatic, and a brilliant strategist and a master of mind tricks, Khan, though intelligent, was himself weak-willed and used the rule by the strong that the Brotherhood of Darkness preached as a cover for his own weakness. A weakness that would ultimately result in the defeats that he suffered in the last days of the war, driving him insane enough to use the thought bomb which caused his own death and ended the Sith Order that he commanded for good. I hope you guys enjoyed this Legends video. Let me know what you want me to cover next. Please leave a like on it if you did enjoy it. And let me know what you think of Vader using one of Khan's indestructible Sith amulets in the construction of one of his gloves. Ask me of my heritage, and I shall tell you. Ask me of my ambitions, and you shall know them. Ask me for my hand in battle, and I shall likely lend you both. But ask me the secrets of Sith alchemy, and I would ask you for 3 measures of blood. 1 from a person you love, 1 from a person you hate, and 1 from yourself. One of the most powerful Sith magicians during the reign of the Dark Lord of the Sith, Marka Ragnos' rule, Naga Sato, began his life on the forest planet of Ziost, within the Sith Empire. Surrounded by the Stygian caldera, a large nebula that made hyperspace travel very difficult to navigate, the Sith had become a rich but isolated civilization, concealed from the larger galaxy around them. 2,000 years before Sato's birth, the Second Great Schism had occurred. It was a divisive split amongst the ranks of the Jedi Order, which led to war between the Jedi and those of their order who had fallen to the dark side of the Force. The war resulted in the Darksiders' defeat. After they fled the Jedi, they discovered the home world of the Sith. The Dark Jedi conquered and interbred with the Sith species, becoming Sith Lords and establishing their own Sith Empire. Sato, as a result, was a half-breed, part Sith pureblood, and a master of alchemy. He preached a philosophy of expansion, at a period where the Sith Empire, though powerful, was facing economic and technological stagnation due to its isolation from the rest of the galaxy. However, the actions of the Jedi and the Republic during the Second Great Schism still hung over the Sith society. The Sith always feared the Republic's return, believing it would mean the end of them all. So, from birth on, Naga Sato was trained to fight this threat, should they ever return. His mentor and teacher was the Sith Lord Simis, who Sato saw as a guiding figure throughout his life, even after Simis became a head in a jar. Simis once tried to fight Marka Ragnos for the title of Dark Lord. He lost by being beheaded, but refused to die. Using the dark side, he kept himself alive as just a severed head in a crystalline container for the rest of his days. But he was made part of the Sith Council, where he was highly respected and valued for his wisdom. Sato would eventually rise in power and status, joining the Sith Council himself. As the waning years of Marka Ragnos' century-long rule, Sato, like his mentor Simis before him, began to want to covet the title of Dark Lord of the Sith for himself. Frustrated by the Sith's stagnation and isolationist attitudes, Sato believed change was necessary, that the Empire had to expand. So, when Marka Ragnos finally died, Sato saw a chance for him to implement that change if he could become the new Dark Lord. But another Sith, Ludo Kresh, also made claim to the title. So, in Sith tradition, Sato and Kresh had to duel each other to the death. Facing off on the threshold of Marka Ragnos' tomb, they fought each other with force-imbued blades. However, neither one of them would get a chance to victory, as suddenly the spirit of Marka Ragnos appeared before them, warning the two Siths and the onlookers that the golden age of the Sith was nearing its end, and they would have to fight the correct battles, or else be destroyed. Sato and Kresh Both didn't have much time to ponder what the dead Sith Lord's message meant when they suddenly saw the unexpected sight of a Republic starship appear. On board were a pair of siblings, Gav and Jory Darrigan, trailblazers, charting hyperspace routes and claiming to have come to set up trade relations between the Sith Empire and the Republic. Kresh wanted the intruders executed immediately, but Naga Sato saw an opportunity in the explorer's presence and saved them from his rival by having the two imprisoned on Ziost. Sato believed that a war with the Republic could be the unifying event the Sith Empire needed to put a stop to its ever-increasing split and growing political weaknesses. He pleaded with the Sith Council to keep the Republic visitors alive, as their knowledge of the rest of the galaxy could lead to greater Sith domination and control. His pleas were ignored. The Council ordered them to be put to death, but Sato's ambitions would not be stopped. He led a team to raid the prison with a small strike team, freeing the Daragons and using one of their Republic blasters to kill his mentor and teacher, and possibly the only person he respected in the galaxy, Simus. He purposefully left the weapon behind at the scene. He placed the Republic pair at his secret stronghold on the icy moon of Kar Sion, then returned to Ziost to see if his strike had resulted in the reaction he wanted. It had. The Sith Council concluded from finding the Republic blaster that the Republic was behind the assassination, pretending shock and outrage at Simus' death, or Simus, however you guys want to pronounce it really. Sato demanded the Sith strike back. Several council members supported Sato in his call for vengeance, but others didn't. The side that supported Sato and the one who stood with Kresh had to come to a head. The victor would be the new Dark Lord. Sensing Gav Darrigan was Force-sensitive, he had once been a low-level Jedi initiate. Sato realized he had found someone with a strong, though untrained connection with the Force, so seeing potential in him, Sato decided to train him as an apprentice and teach him Sith magic. But Ludo Kresh attacked Sato's citadel on the planet Kar Delba. Although completely unconcerned with Kresh's attack, his true stronghold was a secret base on the planet's icy moon. Sato feigned panic. He ushered Jory Darrigan to her Republic starship, outfitted with a tracking device, claiming he was protecting her from all the horrors Kresh would do if he got his hands on her. In reality, he simply wanted her to escape and lead, while her brother would stay at his side as his Sith apprentice. Once she had made the jump to hyperspace, Sato called in his fleet, which had been hiding on the dark side of the planet's moon. The fleet's arrival took Kresh by surprise and forced him into retreat. Thus, having defeated Kresh, Naga Sato became the new undisputed Dark Lord of the Sith. With his ultimate rival seemingly out of the picture, the new Dark Lord united the other Sith Lords under him and began building a massive armada to invade the Republic. He placed his Sith apprentice, Gav, who had no command experience, in charge of one of his flagships. Despite objections from his apprentice about leaving Sith space undefended, Sato launched a destructive surprise attack on the Republic. The strategy was a many-pronged assault at conquering the key Koros system, while simultaneously another part of his fleet would seize the Republic capital planet, Coruscant. Sato, unlike what Darth Vader would have done, didn't fight on the front lines. Instead, the Dark Lord isolated himself within a Sith meditation sphere, using his powers to augment his forces with illusionary beasts and ships, making his fleet appear to be tens of thousands of ships more powerful. Initially, Sato's strategy was incredibly successful, so much so that the Republic was on the cusp of defeat, but then events turned against the Dark Lord of the Sith. His apprentice, Gav Darrigan, shamed by his sister Jory for the death and destruction he had helped to bring to the Republic he once belonged to, Gav turned against the dark side and attacked Sato in his meditation sphere, causing his concentration to break and illusions to scatter and disappear across the galaxy. Having no choice but to return to Sith space, Sato used Sith magic to trigger a supernova, which covered
300 for that, and 2,000 for this, way too expensive. But today I'm going to show you guys how to get all this stuff for a lot cheaper. Click the Honey browser extension, then I got my money. Add Honey today for free at joinhoney.com.
Covered his retreat, but also killed his apprentice. Though Gav was able to inform his sister and her allies that Sato had left Sith space undefended before his death. Returning home to lick his wounds and plan for a second round, Sato was met with an unexpected and unwelcome surprise waiting for him, Ludo Kresh, who had proclaimed himself the Dark Lord of the Sith in Sato's absence. He was waiting to greet Naga Sato with his own army, engaging in battle. Kresh nearly overwhelmed Sato's forces, but one of Sato's pilots made a suicide run on Kresh's flagship, killing Sato's great rival and breaking the will of his forces. But just as he had his victory, the pursuing Republic forces showed up and attacked. With no way to win, Sato and his damaged warship made a daring run and flew between the binary stars of the Denari Nova, while the Republic forces chasing close behind him. Using his knowledge of Sith magics again, the Dark Lord manipulated the solar flares of the stars into destroying the Republic ships following him and covering his retreat, but the stresses placed on the stars caused the entire system to be destroyed. Though the Republic didn't believe that Sato had been destroyed, he had in fact been able to make his escape to the uncharted Yavin system and made a home with his remaining Massassi, a subspecies of the ancient pure-blood Sith race, forces of the uninhabited moon of Yavin 4, raising huge, massive temples, the ones used by the Rebel Alliance during A New Hope many millennia later. Sato would spend decades practicing his alchemy alone, learning to assert his will on the natural order of the universe. He set his sight on creating a race of warriors powerful enough to protect what remained of his legacy. So, he experimented on his Massassi slaves, mutating them into powerful, violent, and hateful beings. He also turned a space slug that had attached itself to his ship into a giant monster that could swallow a Jedi in one bite, the colossal Sith worm, which for centuries lived deep under Sato's temples. However, Sato soon faced a revolt. A tribe of Massassi, who had managed to escape his horrifying experiments, resented his terrible rule and attacked his temples, fighting through his twisted mutations and defenses, until confronting the Dark Lord face to face. Sato commended them on their bravery, then unleashed hundreds of his mutated mindless Massassi on them. He took them captive and subjected them to the very same experiments. After further decades diving deeper and deeper into Sith alchemy, Sato decided to place himself into suspended animation, vowing not to re-emerge until a new apprentice had risen, to take the Sith back into a new golden age. About 600 years later, that day came, when he was awoken by a fallen Jedi named Freedom Nad, and I will be covering him in full in another video. Believing Nad to be the apprentice he was looking for, Sato taught him his Sith secrets, which Nad would then use later to turn on Sato and kill the Dark Lord. Though long dead, Naga Sato's legacy would live on. His attack on the Republic and daring escape would inspire subsequent generations of Sith, including the future Dark Lord of the Sith, Arcann, and even later, Darth Sidious, who found an ancient holocron containing records of Sato's Sith alchemy secrets, a knowledge which Sidious would guard with his life. Hey everyone, how are you all doing today? So I know many of you have seen this cool cinematic, and while a lot of you have played the game and know the background, many don't. So I figured I'd go over a brief video on just who and what this is all about. Now, Arcann is one of my favorite characters in Star Wars lore. Him and his twin brother, Thexan. They were the sons of one of the most powerful Sith Emperors in all of Star Wars, Valkorion. Think of these two like Star Wars' version of the movie 300, except we'll call it twin sons. They were both princes, and they trained from birth. They knew how to fight, use force powers, and harness their powers gifted to them in their bloodline. Once they reached adulthood, their father sent them to do his bidding, waging wars on different planets in the name of domination. Now, just like any brother or sister or twins, one is always going to be different than the other, and that was very much the case with Arcann. Always doubting and resenting his father, where Thexan followed his father's orders blindly. Arcann was a naturally strong force user and a highly skilled duelist, being able to defeat both Sith Lords and Jedi Knights. Mastering his yellow-bladed lightsaber indicative of knowledge and intellect, he demonstrated the use of yellow force lightning and powerful force pushes, which shows a great proficiency of telekinesis. His most powerful and well-versed ability was the use of Force Lightning, even with a cybernetic arm holding back his true potential from becoming a master of the ability, which we'll discuss how he lost his arm in a little bit of detail in a bit. He, like his father, was able to conjure small storms with the ability. Both him and his brother were powerful leaders of the Eternal Empire's armed forces. They waged war against the Galactic Republic, driving them back and putting them to the brink of extinction. However, during one of their many battles, Arcann was severely wounded, losing his left arm and taking disfiguring damage to his face. After the battle, we can see that he received a new cybernetic arm and a mask covering half of his jaw and face. It was after this battle when they returned victorious to their father, Valkorion, presenting lightsabers of both Jedi and Sith as trophies of their success in battle. their father turns away without so much as a glance at the weapons or his sons. Arcann didn't like this. He had had enough. He had sacrificed so much, and within an instant the dark side ignited in Arcann's eyes as he became furious at his father's lack of compassion and caring, and their sacrifices to his empire. Full of hatred, he ignites his lightsaber and leaps at his father with every intention to strike him down, where Thexan pulls his brother back with the Force in an attempt to save his father's life. However, Arcann, still with the hot rage of the dark side flowing deep within him, turns his fury on his brother and exchanged blow after blow. It didn't last long. He saw an opening and lashed out, striking his brother across the torso and killing him. Thexan glances at his brother with a look of resignation, and the light of the dark side faded from Arcann's eyes as he realized what he had done. Cradling his brother in his arms, Thexan dies of his wounds. As a massive shadow approached him, Arcann saw his father standing over him, reaching his arm out and imploring him to come with him and rule his empire. That's the brief story of Arcann. I can go over Thexan in another one if you guys want. So obviously, besides the fact that this is just a beautiful cinematic and beautiful story, basically what Valkorion wanted was one son, but only the most powerful. And through this test of killing his brother, Arcann was deemed as his heir. Now, one power in particular that Arcann was really good at was Tutaminis, which was the ability to stop blaster bolts and lightsabers and Force abilities with his hands. He was capable of defending against his father's Force storm for a brief period of time, kind of like we saw Yoda do with Palpatine. His other skills were in politics, and after taking control of Zakul, he made it the most powerful political faction of the galaxy. He also had a degree of talent as a military commander, managing to defeat both the Republic and Empire within the short span of 1 year, with the might of the Eternal Fleet.
Do you like being a shared workspace for up to 5,000 fleas?
If you like being protected from fleas and ticks with Nexstar, take a nap. I think I can hear the ticks feeding.
That sucks.
Start killing in minutes, for pet's sake.
Hey guys, how are you all doing today? So in yesterday's video I talked about how much power Anakin lost, reducing his power to only 80% of the Emperor's, which is surely a big defeat. He was supposed to be stronger. However, just how much stronger was he supposed to be? Well, I'm going to take any doubt away and reiterate George Lucas's quotes directly from his mouth from the Vanity Fair interview that was taking place a while back. Here we go. Anakin as Skywalker as a human being was going to be extremely powerful, but he ended up losing his legs and an arm and became partly a robot. So a lot of his ability to use the Force, a lot of his powers, are curbed at this point, because as a living form, there's not that much of him left. So his ability to be twice as good as the Emperor disappeared, and now he's maybe 20% less than him. So that isn't what the Emperor had in mind. He wanted this really super guy, but that got derailed by Obi-Wan. So he finds that with Luke, he can get a more primo version if he can turn Luke to the dark side. You'll see as this goes on, Luke is faced with the same issues and practically the same scenes that Anakin is faced with. Anakin says yes, and Luke says no. You learn that Darth Vader isn't this monster, Lucas says. He's a pathetic individual who made a pact with the devil and lost, and he's trapped. He's a sad, pathetic character, not an evil big monster. I mean, he's a monster in that he's turned to the dark side and he's serving a bad master, and he's into power and he's lost a lot of his humanity. In that way, he's a monster. But beneath that, as Luke says in Return of the Jedi early on, I know there's still good in you. There's good in you, I can sense it. Only through the love of his children and the compassion of his children who believe in him, even though he's a monster, does he redeem himself. Now, this is what I really like about Vader. He isn't the monster. He's just made a bad deal and it kind of ruined his life. That's relatable to many people in the world. You make a bad decision and you kind of get stuck in that way because, well, you're stuck. But there's always a way out. You can always change, just as Vader did. His ability to be twice as powerful as the Emperor is saying a lot, considering Palps beat Yoda in a fight, and Yoda was the most powerful Jedi Grandmaster. You know, with the exception of Mace in some scenarios where a pod could be used. But in the Force, Yoda was the king. Now, in the end, it wasn't Obi-Wan's power that beat Anakin, it was his own arrogance that beat him. Kind of just like Maul. you know the story. Now, to have someone twice as powerful as the Emperor would mean that he'd be a very powerful entity in Star Wars. By far the most powerful that has ever lived. At this point, he'd be able to shoot Force lightning because he'd still have his hands, and he'd literally be able to incinerate enemies to ash instantly. He'd probably be able to jump or kind of fly for extended periods of time. He'd deflect just about any Force attack out there, and he'd heal himself through Force drain. This means basically he'd take the life of other life forms and just suck it out of them and put it into himself, healing himself and making him somewhat immortal. Now, one of the main things that Anakin would have developed would have been his ability to see into the future. This was Anakin's greatest gift, and the one that he lost on Mustafar after Obi-Wan dealt him the cards that he'd be left with forever. I'd like to go more into detail on just how powerful he'd be and all of his Force abilities that we'd have gotten if he didn't fail to Obi-Wan. But for this video, I think explaining George's thoughts on just how powerful Anakin would have been was important to clarify. So that's it for this video, guys. I want you to write down in the comments how powerful you think full power Anakin would be if he didn't burn and lose all of his limbs. And then we can get onto that for another video. Hey guys, how's it going, and welcome to another Top 10. Today we're going to go over one of my favorite characters of all time, Anakin Skywalker, the Chosen One. Now, Anakin's got tons of information, canon and legends out there, so you can imagine really this list could be, you know, a top 1,000 facts about Anakin, but I'm just going to keep it short, and I'm going to keep only 10 here, and I'm just going to pick some random cool things, so I could even make it part 2 of this. So before I digress further, let's get on with the video. Number 1. Anakin's visions destroyed him. One of the questions that arise from Anakin's fall to the dark side is if he hadn't had visions of Padme's death, would he have betrayed the Jedi in the first place? He joined the Sith so he could save her life, but in an ironic, tragic twist, it was that very choice that ultimately led to her demise. So, if he hadn't seen the future, would the events that created it have occurred at all? The ability to see into the future was one of Anakin's most powerful and prominent powers. However, you should know that after the events of Mustafar, after he lost to Obi-Wan and officially became Darth Vader, he lost this ability forever. The death of Padme is probably the most well-known of his visions, but throughout Anakin's life, he was haunted by the future on various occasions, in particular during the Clone Wars, on Mortis, when he encountered an entity that was the embodiment of the dark side of the Force, known as the Sun. The powerful Force wielder revealed to Anakin what a dark turn his life would eventually take as Darth Vader. The knowledge of his dark fate twisted his mind, and the vision itself turned him to the dark side. But to restore him to the light, the memory was later wiped clean by another cosmic force entity called the Father. Number 2. Anakin was 12 when he built his first lightsaber. One of the most important rites of passage that a Jedi Padawan must pass is constructing their own lightsaber. Anakin joined the Order at a later age than normal recruits, but he was a quick study with a uniquely strong connection to the Force. So when he was 12, he built his first lightsaber. In the crystal caves of the planet Ilum, Obi-Wan took Anakin so that his apprentice could make his saber. The young Skywalker went inside the cave, found a spot, and began to meditate. While in his meditation trance, a specter of a slave and another one of Darth Maul appeared and attacked him, but Anakin was able to handle them easily. When he woke from his trance, he had completed his lightsaber. The saber was perfectly balanced for him, with a hilt that was heavy and rigid to complement his strength, and would go on to serve the young Jedi well until he lost it in the droid factory on Geonosis in Episode 2. Number 3. He could tame beasts with the Force. Some Jedi were able to communicate and or manipulate with non-sentient animals or creatures throughout the galaxy. This included Anakin, who trained in the ability from his earliest days with the Jedi. It proved especially useful for him in the arena on Geonosis, when he was able to calm down a ferocious reek and even mounted
Here we go.
steed. The ability to
I just got back.
as a Sith as well. After his injuries on Mustafar as Vader, he would go on various occasions to invade the minds of beasts to be used for his own ends. Number 4. Years before his fall, he nearly left the Jedi. Given that the Jedi Council didn't initially want him to join the Order, Anakin was always a little uncertain about his place with the Jedi, but there was a point, years before the Clone Wars, that the young Jedi actually decided to leave. His doubts were only heightened when he developed a friendship with Chancellor Palpatine, whose influence began to push push him away from the Jedi. He started to wonder whether he was on the right path in his life. He joined the Order as a child and hadn't really made an informed choice. His doubts only grew over time, until he reached the point where he handed over his lightsaber to Obi-Wan Kenobi, having decided to leave the Jedi, as we can see in this old Anakin and Obi-Wan comic. However, a crucial mission interfered in his plans. He had to cast his doubts and uncertainties aside and focus on the important tasks at hand. Throughout that adventure, Anakin eventually changed his mind and made his own choice to remain with the Jedi, much to Obi-Wan's relief, and later, great regret. But yeah, what would have happened if Anakin had left the Order before the Clone Wars? Number 5, Anakin's robe reflecting his personality. Now, I've made a video on this by itself a couple years ago, but I'm going to reiterate and dive into it more here. Anakin always stood apart from the other Jedi. We know this. He joined them at an older age. His power was unrivaled, best of every other student and some teachers. His attitude was unconventional, and he would at times disobey orders and improvise during dangerous situations, usually to very successful outcomes. But his masters and other teachers found him reckless. You could argue that he liked making these little subtle, at times not so subtle, rebellious acts against the Order. Even his robes were a bit of a middle finger to the Jedi. They were a darker shade of brown than what most Jedi usually wore. They also incorporated a synthetic black leather surcoat. Black color was probably a fashion choice. The circle itself offered greater protection than traditional cloth, like Obi-Wan's. This came in handy for a man of action, like Anakin, as he would at times jump into situations before stopping to think them through. The robes actually supplied some protection against possible reckless lightsaber strikes, as they were dense and provided armor. Though the outfit, of course, didn't reflect lightsaber strikes,
Just thinking, Cindy.
a bit better of a protection and feel. The outfit did have its practical uses, though. The Jedi were still concerned with the obvious rebellious choices Anakin had made instead of his robes. Concerned that, as it turned out, they should take more seriously. Number 6. Inspiration. Authors, on occasion, when they are trying to come up with a theme for the characters, sometimes find inspiration from historical figures. That doesn't really appear to be the case with George Lucas, however, who seemed to have searched for cool-sounding names that reflected his character's function. Like Luke's last name was originally Starkiller, but was changed to Skywalker, and he's a Jedi and symbolically walks in the sky compared to ordinary beings. With Han's last name, too, Solo was picked only because the character was a loner and lived by his own rules, as we saw in the Solo film. Though it hasn't been confirmed by Lucas, it is possible that the name Anakin might have a historical origin as well. There were allegedly giants called Anakin, who were creatures in the vein of Goliath from David and Goliath, living in Palestine. They apparently reigned supreme and favored war above most things, so perhaps Anakin was supposed to be a more aggressive name, and Luke could have been David to Anakin's Goliath. Number 7. Anakin almost became a slave again. When we met Anakin in the Phantom Menace, he was a slave, which, even after he was freed, was something that haunted him the rest of his life. He resented anyone who was involved in horrendous training. So, when during a mission in the Clone Wars, Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Ahsoka ended up in bondage, the former slave was probably dealing with one of the most difficult moments for him in the war. In order to rescue two Putin colonists who had been kidnapped by Zygerian slavers, Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Ahsoka posed as slavers to get their queen's favor. But she figured out who they were, and Anakin was forced to serve the queen as her personal slave. Because his friends' lives were in danger, he obeyed her for a time. Eventually, he devised a plan to escape at the right moment, while the queen had to face the wrath of Count Dooku, his slave.
What does that mean?
He and Ahsoka promised to free the galaxy of slavery.
Get some creepy vibes. We sure you want to be taken in?
What's wrong with being creepy?
Masters. As I said before, he had one master. Anakin Skywalker, Darth Vader, was never free to be his own hero. Once he was someone else, trained Saw Gerrera, the weird and repeated extremist in the comics. Saw Gerrera, who was played by the Force Rogue One and was by traditionally known in the Clone Wars animated show, was a resistance fighter in the Separatists and the Empire, and fought them both with determination. During the Clone Wars, Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Ahsoka trained Gerrera and his people in how to wage guerrilla warfare against because in episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, Anakin grew out his hair, grew exponentially in power and ability, and suddenly had a mysteriously cool-looking scar bullet.
I reckon this is it.
Well, in Legends, at least Anakin was a Coruscant. In the lower levels, listening to a recording Padme had left for him when he was suddenly attacked by Count This massage mattress. She managed to taunt and antagonize the Jedi enough that his temper momentarily opened for her and carved a scar into his face with one of her lightsabers. But she soon enough withdrew from the duel as she knew she didn't let on. Instead, she left with the boast that she could connect him whenever she wanted, but chose not to. Number 10. Anakin's midi-chlorian account. One of the more controversial additions George Lucas added to Star Wars lore with the prequel films was the concept of midi-chlorians. Personally, I liked it. I was fine with it, but I know a lot of people had issues with it. They were Lucas's semi-scientific explanation of how the Force works, where before the Force had been more of a spiritual, mysterious galactic energy, and I feel like they still are. However, this was George's scientific way of trying to explain it. I'm not going to get into whether the addition was a good or bad thing. Either way, they're canon. A Force sensitive can sense the strength of the Force in other beings, but to understand the potential account of their midi-chlorians is made. If the Jedi lived in a video game, you can say that the midi-chlorians are a type of stat level, with Anakin Skywalker having the highest number of any Force user in the history of the Jedi. His count was over 20,000, with even some sources citing it at over 27,000. What he could have become at full potential remains unknown, but it's clear that he would have become something incredible, as even with a crippled, burnt body, he had no equals.
What's going on, guys? So in today's video, I want to talk about something I think might be interesting for those who don't know the answer. Now, we all know that Anakin was the chosen one. He had been far higher than Yoda when he was just a boy, so on and so forth. Palpatine saw this. He manipulated him for almost 10 years with extreme patience. It's no surprise that once he saw him laying there, Mustafar burned to a crisp and limbless, he was crushed and had no use for him anymore. Now, before his loss to Kenobi, Sidious told Yoda during their duel that Vader will become more powerful than either of them. This was true. He was destined to overpower every Jedi in the galaxy. Now, the answer to this is Anakin, or rather Vader, after his loss to Obi-Wan, lost over 20% of his total power. How did I get this number? George Lucas, in many interviews, has said himself that Vader was only at 80% of his full power after Mustafar at his potential, compared to Sidious, which means that he would have been even more powerful than that. Now that's 1/5 of his power gone. Can you imagine what he'd be like at full power? I'm now going to say a quote from the Revenge of the Sith Junior novelization, where Sidious on Mustafar walks right up to Anakin and gives us a piece of his thoughts about everything that happened and why Anakin won't be as powerful as before. No, it can't be, but it was. His promising new apprentice, who was to be the greatest Sith who'd ever lived, maimed and burned, perhaps dead. Darth Sidious ground his teeth in frustration. Part of him wanted to turn on his heel and leave what was left of Darth Vader to burn to ashes in the rising light. Even if he was alive, even if he could be saved, Vader would be crippled. And not just with his mechanical limbs. The Force, dark side as well as light, was generated by living beings, and it took living flesh to manipulate it. Darth Vader would never be able to cast blue Force lightning. That required living hands, not metal ones. And with so much of his body replaced by machinery, he would never come close to the potential that he had. It was a great pity, Darth Sidious thought, controlling his anger, but perhaps not comparable. Even diminished, Darth Vader would still be very strong, and there were no Jedi left to challenge him. Darth Sidious had seen to that himself, so he kept walking until he could bend over the body, and to his surprise, his apprentice was still alive. So first off, we gotta think like Sidious would for a moment. He pretty much executed the majority of Jedi in the galaxy with Order 66, and those who he missed were too afraid and outnumbered to come out of hiding. This would make the galaxy much more safe from the Jedi than anything, from his point of view at least. So from here, a burnt and weaker Anakin was still an extremely powerful Vader. He was the best option from what was around. However, this was the moment that sparked Sidious in looking for a newer, younger, more powerful apprentice. That's why, all throughout the comics, he tries to find new ones or new ways to test Vader. Then, when the son of Skywalker came along, with all of his power and the Skywalker bloodline running through his veins, he was like, yep, he's my next apprentice, 100%. And if he will not be turned, then he will die. And you know what? It almost worked too, as we all saw. But if Luke didn't see Vader's chopped off hand connecting it back to his own
Exactly. That's what he would have became, and probably would have been better at it.
Now, I want to make a video covering just how powerful Darkseid Anakin would have been if he didn't go for it. I think that'd be a fun one for sure to have theories on. So at a 20% loss, that's the Vader that we saw, which was still extremely powerful and struck so much fear into the entire galaxy. So I wonder what a full power Vader would be like. Let me know what you guys think of Anakin's lost potential and what kind of powers that he have developed, so I can cover them in the next video. Hey everyone, and welcome to today's new video. So, we'll have an awesome video. I want to talk about something that I really wanted to talk about with you guys. One of the biggest stigmas out there is that Hayden Christensen was the worst actor to choose for Skywalker. Now, I made this post on Twitter and Instagram yesterday about it.
Not even the great Luke Skywalker.
Now, Hayden played in an episode of Jordan, people hated the character, and even George has gone on to say this, or Hayden, this is why he felt like the character. Now, while all that might be true, people didn't like his acting because they said he was too whiny, monotone, and lacks emotion. While I truly agree with him, I also hear why he was the perfect fit. George went through Anakin's story with Hayden the entire time. From pre-production to post-production, Hayden knew the character inside and out. He knew who he turned into and who he had to start out as. Let's take Anakin as if he were a villain. You know what? Rather, let's make it official. Anakin. You're born without a father figure. Your mom and you have to survive being slaves by the Hutts, then some disgusting blind creature that whips you and beats you until you're black and blue. Seriously, that happened in books and comics to Anakin all the time. You grow up seeing your mom treated like garbage, and you can't do anything about it because you're just a little boy who's also a slave. Anything that beats him. This kind of gives you a complex story now. The only thing you have is building things. I'm safe! My hero! Really, robots are no good friend anyways. Some magical wizard comes along with this beautiful looking world and whisks you away to a life of being a space wizard, where you can move stuff with your mind and help people because after living in a life of
Hey, Firefly guy! Over
all you
here!
want to do is have justice for yourself and your mom and the people around you, as much as you can. So you leave your mom in slavery.
This entire area is toast if you don't contain this fire's food. There's a water...
Some of your teachers. Yet they don't advance you and keep you in the same grade when you clearly can't move forwards. You get your first mission finally, almost 10 years later, with the only woman you have a crush on, yet you are forbidden to act on your feelings for her. You have to be like a machine, cold, numb, monotone. That's the way that they've raised you to be. You keep having these visions of your mother dying, and then you eventually fail in saving her because you're forced to be on this mission. When you mention countless times to your master, who really wasn't supposed to be your master in the first place, but only is because the real one died, and you got pawned off to a student who definitely wasn't ready for an apprentice of his own. He disregards your thoughts on your mother whenever you mention it, and tells you to focus on the moment. You witness her death, she being tortured by faceless monsters on the planet you were a slave your whole life. You promised to become powerful and come back to save her, but they held you back. Master ignored your warnings about her danger and bury you. You fight the guy responsible for all the turmoil in the galaxy. You betrayed the faction, the Jedi, who were brainwashed to obey. Simultaneously, the same guy the original master was trained by, so you already have some strange resentment towards him. And then he cuts your arm off. You get married in secret, then spend the next few years being a war hero above all the others with the Clone Wars. You kill the guy who took your arm, and immediately find out you're living in baby with your wife. This is kind of a double or triple whammy. The Jedi can't know that you're with anyone religious. You can't be married, and you definitely can't be having a child. How will all of this be hidden? How will that be answered when people ask her about it? Will she have to have a fake husband? How will that work? This entire time since you become a space wizard, you've been manipulated by this one man who's the closest thing to an uncle to you, Palpatine, or maybe even like a father. You have dreams of your wife dying in childbirth constantly. Now this uncle figure says that there's a way to save people from dying, but not through the Jedi, who you've trusted your whole life. But you're now starting to doubt a little bit with their actions and their over-involvement with politics. You're now probably the most conflicted you've ever been in your whole life. You already lost your mom because you were held back all those years when you could have been developing your powers further to maybe give you more insight a lot earlier or save those from death sooner. Your mind now begins to point fingers at everyone, all in anger and desperation. You're moody, you're stressed out, you're not sleeping, you're not eating, you're not respected the way you should be.